Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another Am I the Butthole Reddit video. Am I the butthole for leaving my boyfriend stranded at a party for making a joke? I'm a 19-year-old female, and I've been with my boyfriend who's a 25-year-old male for about 6 months. We don't live together, but I spend a lot of my time at his place. A week ago or so, I was feeling quite sick. Not wanting to drive home, I spent the night at his place. He woke me up at about 5 a.m., and to my great embarrassment, I had wet the bed. I helped him clean up as best I could. I had a temperature of about 103.8 Fahrenheit, and he took me to the hospital where they kept me overnight. A few days later, when I saw him again, I apologized for what happened. He told me it's all right and that he got me a gift. He pulled out a package of adult diapers and threw them at me. I told him that I didn't think it was very funny, and I explained that I was embarrassed, but he thought it was hilarious. I decided to let it go and talk about it later. That night, we went to a party. It was not really a party so much as us and 6 other friends. It was about an hour away, and I drove since my boyfriend doesn't have a car. After he had a few beers, he started loudly telling them what had happened, forgetting to mention that I was sick and had a high fever, just the part of me wetting the bed and him buying the diapers. He encouraged my friends to joke about it, and after trying to explain but being talked over or laughed at, I left and went home. My boyfriend is obviously quite upset I left without him. I just didn't want to be stuck in a car with him for an hour. He sent me several texts since then, most of which are calling me too sensitive and not able to take a joke. Some of my friends agree with him. Am I the butthole? Am I the butthole for refusing to see if I am a match to donate an organ to my mother-in-law? So my mother-in-law and I have always had a bad relationship. My husband has no siblings, and my mother-in-law was very overbearing and did not respect normal boundaries. For example, she wanted to wear white at my wedding, wanted to be in the room when I gave birth, demanded to have a say in our child's name, tried to have a say in which house my husband and I purchased, and tell me how to decorate it, etc. Anyway, my husband and I have been married for nearly 10 years, and his mother threw out all the demands above and lots more. I would always discuss my feelings with my husband and then tell my mother-in-law no. I would explain why I was saying no to her, why it wasn't appropriate for her to do or ask, and thus lay down clear boundaries for her. Over the years, my mother-in-law had tantrums at me saying no. No one had ever said no to her before, and tried to go behind my back to emotionally manipulate my husband into letting her get her way. But my husband has always supported me. He told her we discussed the issue privately, and after hearing my feelings on the subject, he understands why I am against it, and he respects me and supports me 100%, so it's no and that's final. My mother-in-law, however, kept asking and had tantrums. Actual tantrums, for example, throwing things, screaming. It was beginning to stress me out and affect my mental health, so I went no contact with her. Only my husband would speak to her, and she was not allowed in my house when I was there, and my husband would arrange to visit her at her home. My mother-in-law was diagnosed with an illness, I won't say what to limit the chance of my identity being found out, and she needs a donor. She is on the transplant list, but her doctor told her to ask family and friends to get tested to see if anyone matches to quicken the search, to get friends and non-family members to volunteer, and try to find a genetic match in her son, etc. My husband did a test, then asked me to do one, and I refused. I told him I wouldn't, since even if I was a match, I would not donate. For one, as a mother, I would never donate organs whilst I'm still alive, in case anything ever happened to my kids and they needed them, although I do plan to donate my organs when I die. 2, going through this operation to donate could have fatal consequences for me. When I gave birth, I nearly died in surgery due to an allergic reaction to anesthetic and complications. I would not risk the same thing happening again and risk leaving my kids without a mother. My husband understands my decision, but when my mother-in-law found out, she called me a selfish witch. Am I the butthole? I do not want to die, which there is a very high chance I could if I am a match. I do not even want to do a test in case I am a match and my mother-in-law compromises my mental health by not respecting my no and nagging me constantly to change my mind like she did in the past. Edit. My husband didn't pressure me. When he asked, we were having dinner. He brought up that he was going to the doctor's next week to get tested and told me my mother-in-law's doctor told her to ask people to get tested. He asked if I was going to get tested, when would I go? Mainly so we could arrange childcare if he was working. When I told him no, his response was, I am of course upset as that's my mom and the situation sucks, but you are my wife and your reasons are sound. I know it's risky for you and I would never want to lose you either. Even if there was no risk and you simply said no, I would support you as simply it's your body, your choice. My mother-in-law found out I refused as she called me directly to ask. I was honest and told her I would not be getting tested since even if I was a match, I would not be donating anyway. It was too risky for me and I would not risk leaving my children motherless. The only time I would ever undergo another surgery was if it was to save my life or my kids. For example, my kids needed an organ. I already told my mother no when she asked me directly. The reason I was asking, am I the butthole, is because even though I made my choice, my mother-in-law gaslighted me. I was beginning to wonder if I was being a bad person like she said I was. I guess I'm sensitive and the thought of hurting someone genuinely upsets me. I hate to think of anyone in pain or upset. Am I the butthole for going back on my word and wanting to go back to work? I'm a 25-year-old female. I had my daughter back in October with my husband who's a 30-year-old male. My husband grew up with his mother being a stay-at-home mom, while his father worked and wanted that in our relationship. When I got pregnant, I was still working from home the majority of the time, so he reluctantly agreed for me to keep working while pregnant. We decided that I'd stay employed for the 6 weeks paid maternity leave, then quit. I genuinely thought this was what I wanted, but honestly, it's been awful. My husband works in law and has long hours, leaving me alone to handle everything around the house on top of a baby. I feel isolated and overwhelmed and felt like I'd lost my identity. I love being a mom and I love my daughter, but after she's done eating, changing a diaper, etc., all she does is sleep. I know that's what she's supposed to do at that age, but spending hours alone was hard on me. When I handed in my 2 weeks notice, my boss didn't want me to leave and offered me an amazing job. I'd work part-time only 2 days or 3 days rotating each week. On top of this, I'd only have to go in a couple times a month if needed and would still get partial benefits and a decent pay. I was over the moon. I felt like getting back to work would make me feel more myself. My husband was not pleased at all. He argued that I had agreed to stay at home before we got married and when I was pregnant. I was abandoning our daughter and why aren't we enough for you? I dumped childcare on his mom or my income would only cover childcare and therefore it wasn't worth it. I tried to tell him how I was feeling, but he was too upset. He told me that he would have never married me if he knew I didn't want to raise our child and left to his friend's place. He came back 2 days later and only talks to me when it's baby related. It's been like this for nearly 2 weeks, and I know that I agreed to this years ago, but am I the butthole for changing my mind? My mother-in-law and sister-in-law told me raising a family was the most important job I had and that it would ruin our family if I didn't. Edit. I wouldn't send my baby to childcare right away. I simply brought it up if this was a permanent thing when she got older, if that was a concern. Also, I'm not going to leave my husband. We have a child together and I love him. This is John from /bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, now is the time to subscribe. I would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and I'll see you in the next one.